Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to 30 Minutes with Lynxspring, our monthly webinar series. I'm Marc Petock, Vice President of Marketing, and I want to thank you for joining us today. As an informational piece, we'll be recording the webinar, and we'll be making the slide deck available. In keeping with the theme of 30 Minutes with Lynxspring, we'll go ahead and do the presentation and take a couple questions at the end, at the conclusion. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat function. Today's topic is at Lynxspring Professional Services and is being presented by Chris Ryan, who heads our Professional Services group, and George Hawkinson, Lynxspring's Director of Marketing. Lynxspring's Professional Services team has been helping turn projects over quicker, maximize resources and productivity, and allowing you more time to increase your customer base and pay more attention to existing customers and creating additional revenue opportunities for you. So Chris and George are going to look at several things, including estimating, submittal engineering, installation, software engineering, commissioning, training, service, and support. So without further ado, Chris and George, you've got the ball.
Thanks, Marc. As Marc introduced, my name is Chris Ryan, Director of Lynxspring here, and we're going to go ahead and hop in. We don't want to waste anybody's time, and we appreciate you being here with us. So what can Lynxspring do to help you with projects that you have?
Well, let's first kind of give a quick kind of background on what this is all about. The last 8 years, really, Lynxspring has really built up their support and their sales structure so that our business partners are very successful. But the one thing that we kind of overlooked was our professional services. And really, we offered our professional services to OEMs and to certain to create new drivers and whatnot. But with the talent that we have and the engineering services that we have, we thought, how in the world can we help our business partners be more effective in their markets, so that they're not behind a computer all the time, but outside and creating more sales opportunity for themselves. So we thought, well, we have this huge force of professional service that we should expand to them, and that includes all these things that we're going to be talking about listed here on these bullet points. So really, when you hear us talk about our professional services, we really want you to think out of the box and to see how our services can help you guys get in front of your customers, both existing and new, and spend that time doing just that, and not behind a computer doing drawings, software programs, all that stuff, and possibly have our professional services help you do that. So with that, go ahead and turn it over to Chris real quick.
Thanks, George. Yeah, so as George said, we want to help you spend more time with your attention devoted to your customer. So anything that we can do along the process that gives you more time with your customer, and as George said, less time behind a desk, that's what we want to be able to do. So our mission is to help you in these key areas. There's pre-sale support, post-sale support, engineering services, customer service and technical support, training, and on-site commissioning. And we figured that the best way to describe how Lynxspring is able to assist in these areas was to actually look at the phases of a project. So these are the phases of the project we're going to go through. I'm not going to read them off, but you'll notice that installation is grayed out in this slide, and the reason for that is Lynxspring doesn't have a staff that's devoted to pulling wire and mounting controllers and mounting sensors. We know that many of you already have relationships with contractors that do that. We don't want to step on any of your toes with that. And that's also not where our expertise lies. So we want to make sure that we're helping you in the areas in which we are most capable. So let's go ahead and start off with estimating. And everyone here is familiar with estimating, having to give a customer the estimate of whether it's labor and bill of materials. So what Lynxspring can do is we're going to work with you and look at the scope of the project and look at everything from your customer and help you figure out, well, what's the best product, and if Lynxspring is going to help, if you require Lynxspring's help, how much labor is going to be involved with that. So we can absolutely help you with that.
We had we just had a case with I'm going to throw Marc Mitchell out there. I know he's not listening because he's driving to some remote site somewhere. I spoke with him this morning, but kind of give you an idea. We're here in the office and we get the latest and greatest product announcements from all of our vendors. And he had a project where we helped him engineer that had a simple radiation or fin tube radiation on it. And he said, well, can you guys provide us some valves for that? And the typical, he budgeted about $150 a valve. And we saw that Belimo had just released a new zone valve that, the size of it, for one, is about half the size of what a typical ball valve with an actuator on it is. So, these things are about 3.5 inches high by 4 inches wide in the sense, just tiny. But the cool thing about it is, and you guys have all come across this, the engineer, not to throw him under the bus, when we were trying to do the valve schedule, we couldn't find what the GPM was to flow through these radiant fin tube. So we called him up, and he kind of gave us this dissertation on how to, size or figure out what the flow is based on the size of the fin tube and how many BTUs are being pushed through and all this other stuff, whatever. And he goes, well, it's fine. Put between 1 and 1.5 GPM per valve or whatever. So looking at that, and it's as comfortable as we may think that is or whatever, these zone valves basically were half the cost of a typical valve, and then also provided them the ability to change the CV on the valve itself. So there again, we've been able now to provide him with a solution that is basically half the cost of what he estimated. The size is a heck of a lot smaller than he estimated, so now the mechanical contractor, the plumber's happy. But then also, we've kind of covered him in a sense, because of the flow rates are adjustable, we can rely on the balancer, or basically, or we hope to rely on the balancer, that whole joke, that we've made the project successful. So that's just one of those cases that by utilizing our pre-sales or questions, we can always offer you the latest and greatest in technology out there that we can that will benefit you in your project.
Thanks, George. That's a great example of value engineering and finding the right product for our customer. The only other thing that I'll mention with estimating is that occasionally you have a job that's not very well defined. There may not be a true functional specification or full scope of work, but that's another area in which we excel. We can work with you to provide the full functional specification, all the documentation with that, and that actually feeds into our next topic here, which is submittal engineering. This is some of that boring stuff that has to be done, providing the data sheets on the equipment, doing the drawings, making sure that all the installation guides and manuals are there. But this is an area in which we have expertise. So if it doesn't make sense to have one of your technicians sitting behind a desk when he could be on a job site installing a job, let us do those drawings for you. Let us take care of all of that submittal work. And make sure that you keep your trucks rolling and keep your guys out there where they're actually having the most value to your company.
Yeah, you got to remember the last, all of us at Lynxspring have at one time sat on a bucket with our laptops, crunched in a corner of a cabinet somewhere, working on an air handler with 2 feet of snow. We understand all that, and we've been behind the desk engineering these projects and done all this. And you got to remember too, Lynxspring was born from an engineering firm. Our president and CEO, Terry Swope, was the chief operating officer for for Larson Binkley, who was an engineering firm that basically built all the blockbusters and whatever else. So I mean, the experience that we have with creating submittals and all this other stuff, but interacting with engineers and how they work, we understand how that is, and so we're hoping that with our experience would then again help you guys not have to worry about getting these stuff done. And you can more concentrate, again, on your customers and keeping your trucks rolling, getting the service work out there, the stuff that makes you money. Because you're not going to make money being behind a desk. You're making your money when you're out in front of your customers and providing them their services. So that's the kind of the theme. If you hear us keep repeating that, we want to make sure we pound that message home. So
thanks, George. And let's get into, of course, the bread and butter. It's software engineering. This can take.
This is the cool stuff.
Yeah, this is the cool stuff. This can take one of two ideas here. One is actually doing software development. Maybe there's a customer that needs a custom application or custom widget, or even custom driver created. We have in-house expertise. We've created a number of drivers for the Niagara framework. And also created our own applications. We have some examples of those later that we've actually created on top of that framework, which we know many of you are using out in the field. So we have that expertise. We also have expertise in the other products that we sell, such as SkySpark, KMC controllers. We can actually do the line programming in there. And then, of course, the Niagara framework itself, not getting into the software development side, but the application engineering side. We can create all of the logic, we can do the integration, we can create graphics and dashboards for you. So if that's something where maybe you don't have the time or the expertise to do it, we have the in-house expertise to take that, because let's be honest, that's what we've been doing for the last 15 plus years.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at software application engineering, I mean, again, that is, you put in your budget number. Now all this other stuff too, as far as submittal engineering, even application engineering, you get your project, right? And when you bid out that project, you have cost centers within that. You're going to say, okay, I'm going to have 40 hours of submittal engineering for this project, and I've got 60 or 80 hours for software engineering on this project, and I'm guessing it's going to cost this much, and then I've got this much for installation and commissioning and blah 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 stuff. So what we're trying to do for you also is to help you have fixed costs for those things. So when we provide you a number for the submittal engineering or even software engineering, it's a fixed cost. So hopefully we will work within that budget that you've created and surpass that because of the knowledge base that we currently have in our offices. So we don't want you to have to recreate the wheel or have to exert your resources by doing that. Let us help you with that and allow your guys to basically get in there, have a whole system pre-programmed. We'll get you 90% there because, the last 10% is the commissioning portion of it because changes may have happened in the field or whatever else. And if we know about that beforehand, we'll implement those changes. But essentially, your on-site time and commissioning labor will be shortened to basically, hopefully, less than half. So hopefully you make money off of us, and you make money off the commissioning effort, and you make a whole bunch of money off the job, and then at the end you get a really super happy customer. So that's the whole goal behind this whole thing.
Yep. And speaking of commissioning, we can also provide services to help you with the on-site commissioning. Once we do the engineering, we have to make sure that somebody, whether it's us or you, has to make sure that the programming is working correctly, and then as George mentioned, something's always different than what was on the drawing. Something's always different than what was originally specified, and there's some tweaks that have to be made to that programming. So we can have somebody, and and even if it's not somebody on site doing the commissioning, when your guys are on site, if you need help, if you need that reference, we're going to make our engineers and technicians available to you remotely to have those calls and support you throughout the process. So we definitely don't want to leave, we're not going to hand you a product and walk away. We're going to be there with you every step of the way to make sure that your customer is happy, because if your customer is happy, then you're happy, and that's what we want.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to also make sure that everyone understands, all the stuff that we do is, going to make it, it's going to look like it came from you. There's not going to be Lynxspring on anything. I mean, if you've got your engineering submittals, you know, your format that you like, and this is something that you've used over the years or just whatever, and your customers or engineers or whoever that sees these documents are used to understanding that, hey, this, when I see a document that looks like this, I know it comes from ABC Company or whatever. We will make it look like ABC Company. Even the software will have the background will be what we want, and hopefully you can learn from the software applications that we create, because that's the one way that I learned everything. It's just basically reverse engineering what other people have done. But we'll always make sure that the theme of whatever we output is based on what you currently use or your theme that you want. Because again, we're trying to enable your company to grab a bigger market share of what you currently have, and increase your customer base or make your customers happy. And then as things build, hopefully you guys just have a whole bunch of salesmen and technicians, and they're always out there in the truck. You never see them in the office because they're just kicking butt, and you can rely on us to help you push that through.
So let's take to the next step, which is after the site's installed. A lot of times customers are going to require, you know, whether it's 40 hours, 20 hours, or something like that, training on their system. You're never going to install something and walk away and just leave your customer hanging, and we're not going to leave you hanging either. So we can create custom curriculums for you based off of the exact installation that you're doing. If a customer requires training on it, we can, whether it's going to be a classroom-based training or an online CBT, we can create those for you. And in some cases, we've actually had partners that have requested that a Lynxspring trainer be the one that come out and does that training. So we've done that. We want to make sure that when providing those training resources, that you have everything that you need to provide it to the customer. And this, again, keeping with that theme, you know, does it make the most sense for you to have one of your technicians sitting in the office for a week trying to build a training program for the end customer, or does it make sense to have them out there installing more jobs, moving on to the next project, if you want us to go ahead and create that custom training for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's when I remember back when we were doing this, we get at the end of the project, and you know, in the specification it would say that, you know, the building automation contractor is responsible to provide the end user or the customer 40 hours of training. And you're thinking, holy smokes, 40, that's a whole week's worth of training. There's absolutely no way that I'm going to be able to sit there. I could have the training done in basically a morning, and the afternoon, and prior to the other 4 days of drink coffee with the guy and do whatever else. You know, I mean, it was a total, not, it was kind of, I saw not as a total waste of time, but the 40 hours was a little much. But they would always hold us to it. They wouldn't hold us to the 40 hours, but they, you know, try to swap out something for whatever. And what we're kind of proposing is, if you can negotiate with your engineers or even with the customers and say, you know what, there's only so much that I can teach you on your system. But if you want to go above and beyond that, I can send you to factory training for a day or two, which would eliminate the 40 hours. You know, do a swap in a sense and say you're going to get more value out of learning the system from the manufacturer and from their point of view. And I'll go through all the belts and whistles and tell you where everything is. But again, this will essentially then free up your guys from having to spend 40 hours in front of the customer of training their system, and instead spend more of their time talking about other things that could build up the customer, or your sales guys doing service. So that's just an idea of ours. You guys take it as you wish, but that's kind of where we're trying to see how we can extend your time and make it more efficient by helping you out with this type of, or this part of the project.
Thanks, George. And there's another aspect of training as well, not just for your customers, but for you. We offer on-site training for all of our partners as well. It's, you know, we do offer the standard Niagara training program. We have custom advanced Niagara topic classes that we put on. We're certified to teach SkySpark and even custom training. I'll give an example. we recently had one of our partners reach out to us because they were kind of avoiding some jobs requests, or sorry, some quote requests, because their sales guys didn't quite know how to quote those particular jobs. And they came to us and asked, can we put together a training, not just for their technical people, but also for their sales team. You know, the sales team doesn't need to get into the nitty-gritty that your engineers and your technicians do, but they do need to have a basic understanding of the products. And so we've been working with them to put together that custom training. That's good, you know, a couple of days with their salespeople, but also a couple of days with their technical people, and we can do that for you if there's anything that you need that's customized. We don't want you to sit through, you know, 4 days of class and only a day and a half of it was beneficial to you. If there's some advanced topics or some custom topics that you'd like for us to provide training on, we can build that curriculum and provide that to you.
Yeah, that's one thing that we've done for the Lynxspring Exchange. We want to make sure that you guys sign up for that at lynxspringexchange.com. But what we've done, some of our vendors, suppliers like Digilogic, Viconics, what they've done is we've extended the stay from Wednesday afternoon through Friday, where they have some time to talk about their products, and like Digilogic's going to do their project builder and whatever, and all that good stuff they have for their stuff. But our training guys are going to spend time on BQLs and SSL and other basically advanced Niagara stuff on, I think, Thursday, pretty much all day Thursday, which I think is a great benefit for some of your technicians as they come, or even for yourselves, to kind of understand how, you know, those type of applications can further your product, in a sense, your offering to your customer. So a lot of the stuff we want to make sure that we're not going to be able to tell you everything, but hopefully the stuff that we hit on kind of sparks something in your mind and really starts to open up the conversation or your thinking out of the box of how to extend your benefit to the customer, in a sense, or create a better customer experience to bring them closer to you. So that's the whole thing too, is to get your customer closer to you. Kind of like, you know, Facebook. Facebook has done a wonderful job. My wife is on there all the time, and even I am now too, to keep up with all the pictures of our kids to our grandparents. But they're providing this service and they're keeping us close to them. So that's kind of what we want to do. The same thing for you.
And I think that feeds really well into this next topic, which is the after project value add. You know, you just you finish the product with your customer, you have a service contract with them, you're still going to be seeing them, but what can we help you bring to your customer that adds value for them? And we put a couple of examples up here. You know, a big push lately has been with analytics. We have all of this data, but what do we do with it? If nobody ever actually looks at that data or uses that data to find a better way to run their building or run their site, you know, that's kind of, you know, why are we doing it in the first place? We've been working with our sister company Connects on cloud-based solutions for getting that data wherever you want it to go. And that could even be for you if you want to get the data out of a site and run your own, you know, into your own cloud so you can monitor sites easier or find problems for your customers before they become a problem. That's something that's fantastic. If you can monitor a site and put some analytics on there and notice when equipment is starting to operate outside of the norm, or when some of your rules or your logic isn't functioning correctly because you're running those analytics, you can provide those services to your customer to fix the problem before it even becomes a problem.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the way engineers, when they create their design for, you know, make the building come alive, that's essentially all it is. It's all the stuff that makes your lights turn on, or your, you know, the temperature at certain degrees, or whatever makes the machine work correctly and the building, you know, live. But what they don't put in their specifications is the value add that really customers are looking for now, like Chris has just mentioned, which is the analytics, the exception reporting, maybe the data backup, you know, schedule, all that stuff. It's the stuff above and beyond what the scope of work has created, and that's kind of another thing that you could provide to your customers that we would hopefully that we will help you with, to provide that and get your customers, again, closer to you. So, I mean, here you are, you're providing all these neat solutions to them. You're Johnny on the spot, and you're keeping them happy. You're giving them what they need. You're suggesting new things based on the possible needs they have. I mean, these are the things that really keep your customers close and always calling you. So that's the biggest thing, is how can we help you get closer to your customers. And this is these are great examples of how you could do it.
Thanks, George. And I'm looking at the time and realizing just how short 30 minutes are. So we're going to move quickly to questions. I see there's a couple of questions coming in. But the big question is, what do these solutions look like? Because I think what we've been trying, and I hope that we've been getting across in this presentation, is that is that we don't want to replace you. We don't want to replace your team. We want to enhance the work that you're already doing. The issues that we're trying to avoid is, we want to do what we do best and help you do what you do best in the process. I think the biggest thing that George mentioned is we're going to use your logos and your customers' logos, and you're never going to see Lynxspring on anything except on the outside of a Jenny, on the label if you're using Jennies. We want to enhance your business to help you get a better market share. So if there's something that we can do to do that, we want to make sure that we're offering you all the services that we can. So we have a couple of examples here. I'll go through them somewhat quickly so we can get to the couple of questions that are already coming in. I think one of the best examples of professional services is the BACnet to Modbus bridge that Lynxspring offers. It was originally created on the Niagara framework, and now it's offered on our Onyx platform. But this was designed specifically for one partner who had the need for a low-cost solution to take Modbus data and get it into a BACnet system. And through working with that one partner, we now have a product that we offer to all of our customers. And that's just the start of it, because we're already working on other products similar to this that are going to be opened up to all of our partner base as well. We mentioned it during the software engineering portion that we've created multiple drivers for Niagara on open and proprietary protocols. And you'll see more drivers created for our Onyx platform as well. So we're just driving that expertise further and further. We have done application engineering and on-site commissioning through one of our partners for a large national retailer. Help them design the system, go out there, get it, make sure it's up and running. I think that's a great example of, we actually hit some bugs on that one. There were some issues with the way the program was running, and we made sure we put in the time to make sure that was working and find the solution. Like I said before, we're never going to hand you a product and walk away. We're going to be there to help you throughout the process to make sure that your customer's happy, which in turn is going to make you happy. These are some examples here as well of areas where you may be proficient in everything that we've talked about, but if you're working with something for the first time, such as we had a new SkySpark partner, and they signed up a job, but they contracted with us to help them on that first job because it was a little bit of on-the-job training. We helped them get more familiar with the product through working with us. Like George said, sometimes reverse engineering is the best way to learn how something works. So we helped them with that first project and did probably about 80% of the work there, but that gave them the on-the-job training and the expertise to help them grow in their knowledge, so that on the next job they're going to be able to do more of it and more of it and more of it.
Yeah. And, we found though too that the customers like that, they'll do that and they'll see how cost effective it is for us just to do it for them, and then they can basically go out and just tell the customer and say, hey, Lynxspring, can you go ahead and increase this by blah 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 blah. We give them a number, we do it for them. They put their margin on top of it. Everyone's happy, and then they go on to the next one. So the thing is, it's time and money, and everyone has a little of each, and we want to increase both. So that's what this whole thing. And one of the questions that we had was, this is to all of our partners. Anyone can contract us to do anything. So we'd be more than happy to provide you with any services you need. Just give us a call and we'll talk it through and do a big brainstorming session and see how our services can fit you. Brian Lovingood asked how my kids are doing. Well, Brian, today was their first day of school. Ethan is in 4th grade. Henry just started kindergarten today, and then of course Kate is 1.5. She just kind of went along for the ride. So they are getting too big too quick. I'll tell you that right now.
All right, I'm going to wrap up real quick so we can get to the couple extra questions. Ultimately, we want to help you work smarter and not harder. We don't want to take over your team. We don't want to take over your customers. That's never been and never will be our goal. What we're hoping for is that we can enhance what you do. The last example on that previous slide was if you oversell yourselves, if you have more projects than you currently have resources, use Lynxspring as that extra resource. We're that extra part-time employee you call upon when you've oversold your resources. And so if we can help you keep your trucks running and help you keep your sales guys out there selling more and more, well, then you're going to need more and more help, and we can be there to provide that for you.
So the last question, of course, this webinar will be available probably sometime later this afternoon on our YouTube channel. We will send out an email kind of to all the participants and everyone else to kind of show where that is. And of course, if you like our YouTube channel and subscribe to our YouTube channel, anytime we put up cool stuff on our YouTube channel, you get notified. So go ahead and get that taken care of.
So one question that's come up a couple of times here, we're going to jump into these questions since we only have a few minutes left. There's a cost about what's the cost or fees for these services, and we typically quote a stipulated sum. We've gotten really good over the years at quoting how much work and how many hours this stuff is going to take. So rather than quote a time and materials and have something overrun because we didn't budget something correctly, we always quote a stipulated sum to make sure that there are no hidden costs or no gotchas.
We always work within your budget. I mean, that's one of the first things that we'll ask is what's your budget? And then we'll try to hit that budget. And if we come a little bit low, we might even negotiate down and say, you know what, we overestimated a little bit on here. We don't want to hurt you, and maybe bring our costs down. I've done that a couple times. So I mean, that's the thing. We want to make sure that we're making money, but we also want to make sure that you're making money and that you're keeping your customer happy, because the customer essentially is the guy with the purse, and we want to allow him to open that purse up to both of us as much as possible. So that's pretty much it. But again, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll see an email later this afternoon of when and where this presentation will be. And again, I'd like to thank Chris for joining me, and of course Marc for inviting us to participate in this month's 30 Minutes with Lynxspring. You guys have a great afternoon, and go out and make some money, and then come and call us and contract us. We'll be more than happy to help you guys out. But thanks again, guys.
Thanks so much for joining us, and yeah, we will see you next month for the next 30 Minutes with Lynxspring. Have a great afternoon.